Hey friends, Andy here from Raphah. I've spent the last few days up in the Peak District here in England on a short break with my family, which was a great opportunity, most importantly, to spend time together, to get away from the everyday routine and to get out into nature. It's a stunning area of the country with wonderful scenery, lots of places to walk and to get out into the countryside. And so I used that opportunity as well to make some field recordings, to gather some snippets of nature's audio. And I wanted to, in this video, just share some thoughts on field recording, on using nature as inspiration. When I first started making ambient music, it was really born out of a desire to escape from the noise and the overstimulation that we can encounter every day. At the time, I was working in London every day. I still work in London, but I travel in less so. And just that constant routine of traveling to a big city, sitting on a crowded train, having lots of noise and overstimulation just adds to the overall background stresses that we can experience. I had a laptop and a small MIDI keyboard, and I'd sit on the train and it would help me to be transported to a different place amidst the noise and the chaos of that commuting routine. And much of that was trying to reconnect with nature and using nature sounds and field recordings and the experience of being in the outdoors to reset my mood, to regulate my emotions, to help with my spiritual development and reconnect with God through prayer and meditation. And in doing so, I found such peace and a release from that background stress. I do believe we were created to live in harmony with the world around us. I don't think it's natural that we spend the vast majority of our lives now in square boxes with artificial light on screens. I think the best way to experience ambient soundscapes is just to get out into the natural world, whether that's sitting on a beach, climbing up a mountain, walking through a forest. Nature's soundtrack is out there for us to experience. And that's why I try to include many sound recordings, field recordings, samples into my music, because it's just taking a small snapshot of that natural sound, incorporating it into something that I've created in a way that I hope will help not just me, but anyone else listening to experience something of that. Even though I don't think there's any substitute for actually getting out, doing it yourself and experiencing the peace and tranquility that can come from being out in the created world. I really enjoy the process of capturing nature sounds and field recordings. It's not just the process itself of using a device and setting it up. It's being so much more aware and in tune of what sounds are actually around you. Because when you're focusing in on trying to record something, everything else becomes enhanced. You hear the background noises. You hear the fine details of the birds singing up in the trees, or the intricacies of a river flowing or a waterfall cascading. And it heightens your senses to a point where it helps you to appreciate the vast and diverse canvas of sounds that exists around us. Having talked about getting out and about and recording the sounds around you, it doesn't have to be restricted to nature. I know there are some artists that will get very creative with the sounds perhaps around their house or urban sounds, and they incorporate those into their productions, or they use those as sound samples which they then manipulate into a playable patch or something that they can utilize for creative experience. And a few years ago, I recorded a short EP called Still Journey, which utilized some sound recordings I took in London, train sounds, traffic, crowds and noise, and I used that as an inspiration to tell some of my journey about how I was using ambient music to transition from the noise and bustle of the city and moving out into the countryside. That then faded out into countryside sounds and sounds of nature as a way of painting that picture. So there's loads of ways you can get creative with sound recording. Don't be restricted just by what you think you should be recording. What about the practicalities then of making field recordings? It doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. The most important thing is to firstly get out into nature or other environments where you can find the sounds. And then once you're out, use your ears. Listen to what's around you. Find sounds that are inspiring or intriguing or different textures that you might want to utilize, whether that's in their purest form, as recorded, or things you might want to manipulate and sample and utilize later in your productions. That leads to the question of what equipment you might need to get good field recordings. And at a very basic level, your mobile phone will do a decent job if that's all you have access to. The Ambient microphone and a sound recording app. In fact, I still do that from time to time if I'm traveling light or if I don't have my dedicated recorder with me. You can spend a bit of extra money, so I've bought a Zoom handheld recorder, which has really good sound quality, has a couple of microphones that can be configured in a different way. That also allows you to then monitor what you're recording, which isn't actually something I do that much because it requires then carrying a pair of headphones with you. But if you want to really hear what it is you're recording and isolate that, if you plug in some headphones, you can listen to exactly what's being recorded into the device. Clearly, there's lots of other expensive equipment you can buy. You could probably spend thousands investing in professional gear, but there's not many of us that are able to do that. And it's not always really a requirement if it's just a layer in a track rather than a dedicated sound effect or something that's more professional. So those are just a few of my thoughts as to why and how I use field recordings. I'd love to know what you think. If you use different techniques, if you have a different approach or philosophy, please do leave a comment. In any case, I hope this video has been helpful for you and perhaps given you some inspiration and ideas to incorporate natural ambient soundscapes into your music. So thanks for joining me as always, and I'll see you next time. Take care, bye.